You're consuming that in a more ethical thing because it's from a Marxist lens and not necessarily from a "I can't believe they were murdered" type of lens.
No,
Like,
I'm
they
glad they were
deserve to
murdered.
live.
No, they I'm upset I didn't get to shoot the bullet myself. Um Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we'll be discussing The Sinner's Duology by Sophie Lark. Don't forget there's a link below to sign up for our free newsletter where you can get more information and updates about us and the podcast. Outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcasts. I'm your co-host Kristen. You can find me at KRXX on all social media platforms.
And I'm your other co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms. And I think before we get into it, I got in touch with the people with Operation Olive Branch, and we do have an adopted Palestinian family. So if you are looking to donate to someone, we will also have that in the description.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yes. Let's get right into it.
You know, of all the books I could have picked you reading, of all the dark romances, I did not peg you to read this one or have any like desire to read the Sinner's duology.
What do you think I would have read over this?
It literally anything. I was just very surprised that you wanted to dabble in this because this is like OG dark romance TikTok or book talk
Well, the only reason
literature.
why I chose this one is because I read Anastasia by Sophie Lark and I enjoyed that. So I figured I at least liked her writing style, and reading this, I don't know how many dark romances I have to read to realize that I don't like dark romance.
There is like a certain trope or vibe, or I don't even know,
I
like
feel like there's gotta be one for me. Everyone's so obsessed and they love it, right? Like I feel like I just gotta find the right one where I actually find like the man attractive. I just feel like I never like.
so you'd have to be a little ugly.
Yeah,
And then
very
maybe.
true. And not rich. Not a billionaire, preferably, I guess. Some big shoes to fill in dark romance, I think. There always have to be
Do
super
you
rich.
do you remember like book talk last year, maybe even year before, like this book was like the top of the recommendations. I think it still is. Like you look it up and it's always in those compilations. I'll like start with this, Haunting Adeline, That Sick Love, Den of Vipers, and it's like
I
there are no
honestly
saints.
don't get that many dark romance recommendations. The only ones that I honestly, I don't think this has ever been recommended to me. The only reason why I saw people talking about this was because I guess a few weeks ago people are going into Walmart and putting in like Christian like pamphlets to There Are No Saints and then stealing them. Vacuum like made a video talking about it.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
I do remember saying that, but that's funny that you didn't. We have very different TikTok for you pages.
yeah. Yeah, so that's the only reason why I was like, damn, if the Christians hate it, it's gotta be good. And, well, it was definitely a book duology that I read. I read the second one, which is a step above what I did for Haunting Adeline. You know?
Very proud of you. Committing.
But I'm sure if anybody listens to us, might have seen my video. I did make a video about this that did pretty decently, where it was the second book in the duology was like randomly anti-communist, DNF it at that point. But I figured I'd stick it out to finish an easy book to add to my total of books for the year.
Dude, that was like the most out of pocket fucking thing for anybody in a book to say at that given time. It just didn't fucking make sense. It was horseshoe theory
It was so
out of
random.
nowhere.
Like, I don't understand. Like, I understand. Like, the quote that he says is like comparing like a character to being like a tyrant or like a dictator. And so he says the quote is something like, she was like Mussolini, Lenin, and Stalin all wrapped up into one. Which is like You cannot pick like the three most different people in the world to compare. Because I mean, like, I guess if you're on like anti-communist like side of the internet, Stalin does get a very bad rep. Um, but Lenin, I feel like Lenin was catching strays there. Nobody, like, even like I've seen like the most liberal people, like they don't like love Lenin obviously because they're liberals, but they're like they don't compare him to like Mussolini or anything like that. Where you're just gonna
No,
compare.
they take like the George Orwell approach where they're like, he was good, he had some good spunk, but they just misguided it. But this was just
Yeah, so just even
it
putting
was
Lenin with
interesting.
that was a very crazy like comparison for me. I was like, oh, I was very cringed out. Which I mean, I read Anastasia. I know Sophie Lark obviously does not know anything about the first thing about communism or the Bolshevik Revolution or anything like that. Which I just think it's such a weird. Well, because like even reading Haunting Adeline, she doesn't randomly become anti-communist, even though she has like QAnon like weird political like right wing stuff within it, but it's never like it never randomly is like we're never randomly catching strays like in this. I felt like I was personally attacked reading that.
And I tried, I think at the time and even today, I was trying to do some of the work for our document that we go off of for the podcast, and I cannot find any sort of politics that she follows or subscribes to.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's pretty easy to suss that out from like popular authors. Like it'll bring up like Twitter posts or whatever. There is nothing. I did not see anything. So I think that's very strange.
I mean, we obviously know
I should throw
anti-communist.
that in there.
um
Anti-communist, I think.
I could see it like a
Oh,
liberal.
I think she's like progressive-ish. Could not find anything that she said about like Palestine or like Israel. She hasn't made a stance, so like just quiet on the
There's
matter,
no
which I'm curious
stances.
because of everything that's happening right now, what will end
Yes.
up happening. So by the time this gets posted, I may have to record something and add a little excerpt like right here if
Mm-hmm.
this changes, but as of right now,
There's
Sophie Lark has been very quiet.
a lot of blocking. It's mostly celebrities people are choosing to block, which I've seen on which we'll probably have our own conversation about like people like thinking that it's an idea of activism to block all of the celebrities and stuff like that instead of blocking like politicians and things like that. And things that actually which I do think it's like an important move stuff like that, but I think a lot of people, especially online, this is like
Yeah, and I
sensitive.
did get asked today in a comment section, like, how do like we as Marxists approach this? Because a lot of people that are participating in it aren't utilizing tools that are like dialectical or like taking into that consideration. Like it's kind of an apolitical, kind of separationist type of movement where it's super focused, but not really like acknowledging like neo-colonialism and settler colonialism and like why it's important to speak out, like what is happening there, why it's happening there, like trying to
Mm-hmm.
get people to move and grow, but it just hasn't gone to that point. So
As we know, I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's only just like mainstream celebrities, and it's mostly celebrities that were at the Met Gala, whatever you call it, that they're blocking. That's like the main big, notably silence people, which I think is important. But I don't know
and then
how
it's
many.
going to like the influencers. It's definitely like
Yeah.
it's taking that shift. I saw a lot of big influencers and whatnot on there, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what Charlie D'Amelio ends up saying, or Allison whatever
Addison Rae.
on the matter. Addison, yes, it was Addison, not Allison. My
Get your
apologies.
TikTokers correct,
TikTok.
please. Anyways, off of that, moving on to Sophie Lark is as an author or as a person. I don't
She's
know.
an author, a parent. I read two different descriptions from her personal website and also from Goodreads. One says that she lives in the Rocky Mountain West, and the other one says that she lives in Southern California. So I don't know. She's got a lot of like chuggy shit in her bio. An Aquarius, likes
Yes.
Emily Henry and Frida McFadden and Harry Potter world. I don't know. It's weird.
I mean,
She
but
started publishing in 2019,
so
so like
relatively recent.
pandemic,
Before, a little bit before. I wonder what she did
and then
before author.
I don't know. And then she has
35
35-ish books.
That's
This is what was on Goodreads that I
35-ish.
could count up.
Ish.
I didn't know how to interpret the Goodreads. I was trying to figure out how many books because she's got like that brutal print series, and she's got another series that has a bunch of random men on the covers that looks like your stereotypical like romance novel, like the dudes with abs, and
That's
it's like a
7
blacked
books a
out background.
year. Roughly.
So you're writing a
7
lot
books.
of.
That's crazy. I mean, comparatively, like reading this, they're not very long. They're all like, oh, it's not like any.
But I did find a quote for her motivation for writing, and I thought it was really funny, and I'm curious what you think of it. But she said, I started writing romance so I could create strong, intelligent female characters. All of my couples are different, but in every case, the hero and the heroine need each other to become the best versions of themselves.
Are we saying
Do
that
you,
her her female
do you
characters
think
are strong and intelligent?
that, yeah, do you think that?
I mean, they definitely made decisions that I would not be making reading those stories because, I mean, me
It's just fucking weird. It's
personally,
like this is a dark romance book, right? And the main character is like shit. This isn't even like, but this is like the archetype of like
but
all
like
dark
they're
romance.
supposed
Like,
to be a little stupid, right? They got to be making those dumb decisions that put them in the
why would you, if you were smart, intelligent, why would you go
and fall
with
in
the
love with your
bad guy? Like
stalker,
realistically,
somebody who's
it's
stalking
fucking
you.
weird.
Me personally, if
I
somebody
don't.
was stalking me, I'd shoot them.
I
You know?
I was gonna say I was like I'd get a gun.
Yeah. We know the police won't do anything, so you got to do it yourself. You know?
Oh, that's
But
so
I don't
funny.
know.
Anyways, that's just a little side note. I thought that was funny, and we'll dive into that later, I think, when we get into spoilers. But
For
I,
the
I just thought
actual
that was an interesting little thing to
that
throw in
she
there.
read.
Controversies. I saw this on Storygraph. So somebody had wrote a review for her book, Bloody Heart. I think it might be part of the Brutal Prince series or the whatever the fuck that series is. It's like the one that gets a lot of popularity on Book Talk. But the creator or the user happily never ending TBR said, "What in the racist shit did I just read? So many things wrong with this." And then the quote is, "I will be his slave and he can be my master." And then just, she said, makes a black woman run away from being shot and hunted. She covers herself in mud. The only way she could be seen is by her teeth or the whites of her eyes. And it says, "Excuse me," like in all caps.
Yeah, those are definitely some choice words as a white woman to be making to describe your character. Uh,
Know nothing about this book. I think that's fucking weird though. Like
that is
this
weird.
whole
That is
thing is like
definitely
some of her.
which I mean, like it's just like I don't know, like Sophie Lark like lets the intrusive thoughts win, or like her editor, like I don't know if she has an editor, but I
She's
think
losing the battle with the intrusive thoughts.
because like why would you
Jesus
think that?
Christ.
You would think that and then think that in your mind and be like, oh, this is a good quote. And then you type it out and then you read it again and then you still think it's like good? And then like where's the
And
editor
like
in this situation?
theoretic that's what I was saying. I was like, there's editors, right? There's people reading these books
Arc readers and things
several
like that
times.
that are like, oh,
Yeah.
but
Arc readers is a whole other thing.
I don't mean this as like a jab at like Sophie Lark or anything, but I'm sure if she is having arc readers stuff like that, and we already know that the publishing is white, that it probably is a lot of white women that read over that, and obviously white people are not going to see that language.
That is a really interesting point to make. I didn't think about that. Like a lot of the right or white readers like are going to be the ones that are receiving the arcs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Sophie Lark personally, and I don't know who she's getting her um like stuff like that out to, but I also know just like being on TikTok and being aware of the people that are in the dark romance areas, and these are also the ones that are platforms, so the ones that have the most followers and things like that are usually white readers. So I think it makes sense if majority of the people that were getting arcs of whatever book they're reading, it's going to be a white person's not very diverse, and so I can see white women getting these arcs and not see the underlying microaggression of it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I'm curious if there is demographics on it or any analytics. That would be really interesting. If you're an author and you have analytics on who you're sending arcs to, you should publish that. I think that's really interesting
I think that
because
could
I
be,
don't think I've ever read anything about it.
yeah, I think that could be good to see. Well, I mean, especially in the United States, I mean, there are more white people than there are anything else. But I do think if you want to get the most diverse, like different sets of eyes looking at books and stuff like that, I think it's really important to give it to all different demographics and let them read. They can definitely see and guide you in ways that could make all and everyone. But I mean, I also noticed that a lot of the time in these dark romance, in this, all of the characters are white.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. Like a lot of, I can't think of really any dark romance off the top of my head where the main character is a woman of color. And I think it's because a lot of the dark romance authors are white women.
I think
Because
you'd be
I
correct.
cannot think of a single one off the top of my head that is a woman of color unless I've never delved into that like genre or I have no idea.
I mean, but then these are
Because I
also
know a
the.
lot of I was gonna say I know a lot of like the authors of dark romance from what I've noticed a lot of them don't necessarily show their face. Like they'll have just like a
Aliases.
blank person of their aliases, so I don't know.
I mean,
That
to be
could be
honest,
something
like
they're hiding, but
if you're writing a dark romance, I can understand not wanting maybe plaster your face all around because I know, especially now, I mean, you see like all of the comments about like all women read on book talk is smut and stuff like that. Where and I know a lot of people that are authors, being an author is not their main source of income, and so having something out on your resume where if you're trying to have like a corporate job or something like that and then you're like, oh, I'm also author of this disgusting romance where this dude almost kills the love of his life or whatever, how that's going to make you get perceived in like business settings.
yeah, that would be weird. I don't know. I don't know what people do who are authors for money. Like they do have to have a job, huh?
Most of the time, yes, they. I mean, not like the bestsellers. I'm sure, like at least H.G. Carlton, Sophie Lark, all the big name authors, they usually don't have to have like jobs anymore. Like I know Rick Riordan talks about this a lot on his blog and stuff like that. Like he was a teacher for like 10 years after the first Jackson came out, or 5 years after Jackson came out. He had adult books that were published way before the Percy Jackson book got published. He had to stay as an English teacher because you have to have a job because writing books is not lucrative unless you're in like top 1%.
Man, capitalism really sucks.
Yeah, which I mean, you have to appreciate the people that. I mean, I'm sure nowadays it's a lot easier to get discovered, especially on Book Talk. But I know, especially I mean, if it's someone's debut novel, they have to be doing that income.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
I
say
was
that he
really
hasn't.
surprised though when I was doing like the ratings for these that they only have like the first one has 79,000 reviews averaging at 3.82 stars and then the second one has 51,000 reviews at 3.89 stars. I thought these would have had way more reviews with how often I was seeing them recommended on Book Talk because I feel like that's not that much.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
remember how many Haunting Adeline had.
Adeline is sitting at 460,000.
I mean, like 80,000 is still a lot of people to read like one book, but I don't know. For like a dark romance books, I feel like they like get so popular,
I
and it's
feel like
such like a feral
I mean,
group
this
of
is
people that
definitely
follow them.
more
It would be
your
more.
thing than mine. Like this is probably like the third that I've read, and I think this is probably at least the first book is probably the best one that I read, and I think I only gave it what 3.5. Gave it 3.
Which one? Butcher and Blackbird?
No, the first one. Oh, is Butcher and Blackbird considered a dark romance too?
Yeah,
I had to check my story
because you read
graphic.
Haunting Adeline, you read Butcher and Blackbird,
Credence
and then you read these two. So you technically, I think you're at four.
and Credence. Oh, that's a 4. Yeah,
Oh fuck! Goddamn Credence.
that's 5.
Which I don't even know why that's dark romance. It's not. It's not fucking dark. All it is taboo. She wants to fuck her
Okay,
uncle
I
and
give
cousins.
the
Like,
first one 3.25 stars.
I think I
Or
read,
I
like,
had
I
them at
ended up
5
rerating
stars
them.
whenever I started reading. Just saying, both of
I
them.
used to rate everything 5 star. I don't know why. When I first started rating on Goodreads, everything was a 5 star read. I was like, oh, that was entertaining, 5 star. Like, there was no
Something can be
rubric
entertaining, and I still
or
won't give
guide.
5 stars. That's not what 5 stars didn't mean entertaining. 5 stars means it changed my life.
Well, now that's what it means
It means
for
it
me.
changed my brain chemistry.
Like Babel.
Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't recommend. I mean, unless you're really into dark romance, I personally wouldn't recommend reading this.
Oh, I think I put the first one at like a 3.5, 3.75. I thought it was like entertaining and the plot and the pacing of it were good. I still didn't like Cole. I didn't do a reread of this. I just like thought
Yeah.
about it, used my fucking brain. I don't like Cole though, like at all.
You like Zayd
And
more
I
than
hope
you
the
like
best for
Cole.
Mora. Yeah, I would honestly say I probably like Zayd more than I like Cole because at least Zayd was not a classist, you know,
Yeah.
or said weird. I don't know. I don't want to rank them because then even then, like Zayd is still like
Terrible.
a rapist. So it's
A
like I
rapist.
don't
You can
know.
say rape.
I guess we can. We're not on TikTok. Um,
I hate you.
yeah,
Mariah is always censoring herself. It's very
I
frustrating.
do. Self-censoring. I've just gotten in the habit of doing it. Anyways,
I've
and then the
never.
second one, I think I put it at like a 2.5 or a 3 star. I did not like how it ended. I did not like that book.
Um,
I don't know why it's rated higher.
I feel like it was very like a letdown. Like honestly, I don't think it needed to be 2 books. I feel like the way that the first book ends, without spoiling it, they could have put the ending of the second book there, and it would have been fine. Maybe just make it a little bit longer, like a little bit more than 400 pages. Really wanted to add that drama, but
Yeah, I think we should get into the spoilers because I think this is where we're gonna talk the most about the book is with like the criticisms I saw in the Goodreads ratings and then also the praise because I just don't think with talking about 2 books we're gonna be able to like effectively do it with no spoilers for like it to make sense. Neither of us recommend this book or book series,
I would not
so
know. I mean, unless you're like a dark romance reader, that's probably the only person I would recommend it to, because I did recommend people that I know that actually enjoy like Haunting on the Line and stuff like that. But that's their business, not mine. So they can read it if they want to. But I'm not reading this again.
okay, so we're into the spoiler zone.
Yes.
Reading the reviews on this was really interesting.
You will
So there
harass
was like a
people on these.
huh?
I said you will
Sorry, it cut
harass
out.
people on these. You
Yeah,
probably looked at like.
which surprisingly, I didn't do that for this, but also I could just like tell by like the ratings like what these people would rate like a 5 star read or something. Um, people were saying what they described it like the character tropes of like you, the character trope of the show you, but he falls in love and doesn't kill the girl, which I can like see. That kind of makes sense, but at the same time, like that's
I mean, it's just like the stalker romance.
not
Like
really.
saying that's like
It's
Haunting
literally
Adeline
yeah.
is like you. Just because a dude's a stalker, they're like you. And
I that's what I thought was weird.
I mean, I've only seen like most of the first season of You. It wasn't really a show for me that I enjoyed. I tried to watch like every season, and I can't ever get into it because I don't really see like the attractiveness of Joe, whatever his name is.
People go feral for it and like they completely missed the point is that it was supposed to be like intentionally like misleading so that like you could see like how somebody could fall in love
Manipulate
and
you.
like be manipulated, but you're not also supposed to fall in love with them. And I am convinced it's like where like dark romance really started to like get a fan base without realizing it because You is a weird show. Anyways, the other review, somebody said that it was equal parts romance, suspense, and thriller.
I didn't really
It's
get.
like,
Sorry. I didn't really get any suspense or thriller part of it. be honest. Just because they were planning on killing the one guy did not make it suspenseful. Like that, the beginning I feel like had a lot of potential with her getting kidnapped, and it starting off with her getting kidnapped. And
It started off really
I feel
strong.
like that could have been really interesting, and I think maybe it could have been cool if instead of like, or even like where she does end up getting with Cole or whatever, but then like on her own front, she was trying to get revenge. Alistair, instead of just being, oh, the law's gonna take care of it. That was her the whole time until the second book when she's like, maybe my boyfriend's right. The law isn't gonna take care of it.
That was funny. I do remember that.
That,
Because I read this like what, like a little over a year ago, and I remember I was like, dude, just go kill him.
Yeah.
Just go kill him.
Which, I mean, they do end up doing that, so it's like, what's the point of having like the inner turmoil of it where she like feels guilty about it when like they just have sex one time and she's like, you know what, we do have to kill him. Where I feel like she's like, she thought she was so much better than like her abusers for not wanting to kill someone, but like her abusers never killed her, so I don't understand the moral of it.
But she's the intelligent and strong female main character.
But like, she's supposed to be intelligent and strong. To me, that reads off as like independent, not like weighing towards that. But then I feel like Cole convinced her to kill this dude. Which, I mean, like, I don't blame him. I would kill him too. But it's not like.
But at the same time, like, she becomes like codependent upon Cole. Like by the time you get to the second book, because the first book is kind of just like that weird sexual tension. It's a lot of smut. But you get to that second book and
Like,
she's like completely dependent upon him.
It's funny because, like, in the second book, she's like, normally I don't like being bossed around or being told what to do. But for Cole, he has to love when he does it. Like, okay, so you actually don't care if you're bossed around. Don't say that you don't like it if you obviously do like it. No, which is fine if that's what you're into.
He does it.
It's like, it's cool if that's what you're into, but don't act like it's not something that you haven't been into, where obviously you just haven't explored that part of your sexuality yet, lady. You know?
It just doesn't make sense as like a from a literary perspective as a character who's explaining that, like not necessarily in like the real life, but just her character specifically saying these things and then doing the opposite, which seems to be happening a lot throughout both of these books. And then the second book, people said they really liked the character development, which I can say all the second book is fucking character development. Like it is so focused on characters, like the plot is moving like molasses. Ain't nothing happening really.
The whole thing is like the lead up to him convincing whatever her name is, Mara?
Mara. Yeah.
Mara, where they're like where he's just like convincing her that like the law isn't going to give her justice for the other guy, Alastair, for killing her friend. That's like all it is. And they're just basically, she's waiting around, waiting. And it's a lot of sex. That's I think a lot of what the second book is. Like, there's a lot more smut in the first one. Which is saying a lot, because I feel like the first one had a lot of smut. But
was the second one as good? Like, I feel like the tension and like the confusion in the first one kind of like added the layers to it, which intrigued so many people to read the second one. And the second one, it was kind of just like, it was there. It felt like filler.
I think a lot of the time,
like she just,
like, I know me personally, whenever I read like romance and stuff like that, I prefer the tension and the build up. And so it's like once they're finally like in their happy relationship, I'm not as into it anymore unless it's like a super well built relationship where they're like, I don't know. I feel like the reason why the payoff is usually so good is because if it takes so long for them to actually get together, but they get together like halfway through the first book. So I feel like the tension and like the will they won't they element is gone, where I feel like a lot more people are reading for the drama and well, there's no drama anymore by the second book because like it's already basically resolved except for just killing the guy. You know, they only have
because it's not like with say like Haunting and Hunting Adeline where like Addie goes through like something really traumatic and there is kind of
and they're separated.
A weird, they end up like they're still not together, right?
Yes.
Even in the second one, they don't get together until like way later in the book. Like they're still like, it's weird, but there's still like that there's
There's the
troubles,
possibility
there's
that it's not going to
conflict.
work out.
Exactly, and that's not here. Like, the deal is sealed by the
Yeah.
end of the first one,
Like,
and
she's
you
like,
ain't getting anything in the second one. I really don't like the second book. It makes me mad.
and well, I think one thing too is that, like, right at the end of the first one, whenever she's like going, like, she got interviewed by the police or whatever because they're like, oh, you murdered your roommate or whatever. She's like, no, I didn't. This guy did or whatever. But then she gets let out because they don't actually have any evidence of her killing her because it's all like speculative or whatever. And then she says to Cole, like, I'm ready to go home. And then she means like his house. So then to that means it shows that, like, oh, our relationship is solidified. We're ready to be like committed. And if they want to be committed to each other, that's fine. But then it's not as interesting to read about, I don't think.
No, because they're just like a unit.
Yes.
Like, they're on the same page like 90% of the time.
Now it's always two instead of just like one on their own. And I feel like,
and it makes the point of views less like lackluster.
because they're always together, so you're just getting like one scene from her point of view where they're in the same spot, and then his point when they're like walking to the next spot or something like that. It's not really like, because at least in the first one, there's a lot more interesting dynamics because you get his perspective of him following her around while she's unaware that it's happening. And so it makes it a little bit more interesting because you get her perspective of what she's doing. Well, he doesn't necessarily know why she's doing the things that she's doing, but he's seeing her.
This should have just been one book. They could have cut out like half the filler or whatever, or put it as like a novella or a prequel or something. But to have it as like a duology just doesn't make sense.
Yes, I think it's mostly because I think duologies and dark romance is kind of like,
It's very popular. And
which
I don't know why.
I think duologies can be good if you actually have a reason for the second book. There's an extra conflict. Because, like, I think, like, why Six of Crows duology works so well is because, like, they have their first conflict with, like, the art heist. Art heist, what? Where they have the heist at the ice court to get, the guy that makes perfume, right? And then the second book, because of, like, situations, they have to now do a heist for something else and get their money. You know? So there's, like, a second conflict that, like, you needed to read the first book to go into it, but the second book is not really required. Like, it's not leading the first book and that heist or anything that really happened to it. It's just the relationships that are needed for the second, where it's not the same story at all. I like.
We get to the criticisms.
Yeah,
I think these were like the most legit criticisms of There Are No Saints. And one, I didn't write down the user's name on Goodreads, but they said the female main character is a waitress, and the main guy character says that. Oh, sorry, the way it's worded is funny. But basically, like, the main, like, Cole says that it's pathetic to be a waitress, and why would she even want to live if that's what she's choosing to do with her life? Like, I do remember reading that, like, of Cole's inner monologue, like, why would she want to be like a working class peasant?
Yeah, whenever now she's
a
rich
very,
artist.
very classist.
Yeah. And it's just like, of course, a rich person is going to have that idea where they don't actually have any value over hard work. Yeah, it's like you want to go to these nice restaurants and eat nice food. Not going to that some people actually enjoy serving food or cooking food and things like that. Being in that environment. Like, everyone has their own interests. I'm sure there's people that love being a server and they love that for their career and they would do that for the rest of their life because they like the people aspect, the serving food aspect, or whatever. And it's just rude, and like, I don't understand how you could be so hateful for someone doing something they enjoy doing. Whether it's art or
It's really
serving.
confusing though, because like, you think with him like observing her, and she lives in this flat or apartment with several people, and then she also has a second job, like, right, she's a bartender at night
and she dog
and
walks
dog walking, like, she does a lot of shit because she doesn't have money, and he's just like, man, I just don't know why you would do this to yourself, it's so unsavory. Like,
and like, the restaurant that she's a waitress at, she like got that job there whenever she first moved out of her parents' house or whatever, and like goes and try, and the owner gave her an advance on money to buy like work clothes for that restaurant and stuff like that. he ended up becoming a really good friend to her because he took care of her, gave her extra hours whenever she needed and stuff like that, where she felt like he was a father figure to her, and that's why she wanted to stay working there, have this business running, you know? So it's like, it
Yeah,
was
so
like
there's
working for her family.
that element.
And he was just
Yeah.
like, oh, that's disgusting. You're rich now. Just go be rich. It's like, sometimes it's nice to have a change of pace too, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I like this
Anyone that's
last
ever worked
criticism.
like a 40-hour
Yeah.
job knows that like it's very mundane.
Yeah.
Oh, which one? Which last one?
The last one. I really thought they would. They worded this wrong, but it says I really thought
This was just like
they would become a serial killing duo, Bonnie and Clyde reborn. But all they did the entire book was drink lattes, go shopping, drive cars, and have unsanitary / unsafe sex with TikTok songs in the background. When I say unsafe, I mean Cole literally almost choked the bitch to death so she can finally realize she has daddy issues. Heart eye emoji. That's so funny.
This is the realest review. I thought you would enjoy that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That's literally like the book. That's it. That's so funny.
There's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. Oh, and the other thing that people were upset was that Mara does not wash her laundry for some reason.
As
And
often
that
as
was
she
like
should.
a elephant.
Yeah, she was gonna put on
Yeah.
dirty underwear to go on a date. That's disgusting. But the reason why she didn't is because Cole came in them while he was stalking, like going through her room. And she put them on and they were wet. She's like, ew, that's gross. Why are they wet? She smelled them. She's like, ew, that's gross. I'm gonna just go commando. Like, wash them in the sink or something, lady. Like, what do you mean? You got soap and water.
That's what I mean. Is like, how is she an intelligent female married
Yeah.
character? Like,
I mean, I get
if you live
commando,
in like
that's
a
your
big
business.
city,
Yeah.
you gotta have like a little thing of like detergent.
You
Right?
can
You're not just gonna
literally,
buy it at the laundromat and just wash stuff like intimates. I do that all the time.
yeah,
Like if
you
I
can
don't want
wash
to
them in
wash
the
anything, I
sink.
just need one thing.
Yeah, you can
Wash
wash
them in
them
the
in the
sink.
sink.
Wash in the shower.
Yeah. Like, put the detergent in there, you put a little bit of soap. I mean, whenever our washing machine was broken, Tyler had to hand wash all of our clothes in the sink. Or you put them on, like, how do you think people did their laundry before washing machines existed? They had washboards where you rub them in and stuff like that. Like, it's not impossible, where at least if you just want a pair of clean panties, let them soak in
And
some
washing underwear
detergent.
is so easy. You can literally just like let it soak in a sink overnight or for a couple hours if you need to, and
In the
like
bathtub,
get it
if you
agitated
think
with
it's
some
gross
soap.
in the sink, and then scrub it up against something, and then rinse it off, throw it in the dryer, you're done.
Which you should know this if you are somebody that menstruates, because this is something you have to do.
Yeah,
Like this happens.
yeah, especially if you have an accident, leak through something, you can't keep those on unless you want it to stain, and sometimes I have a few that are just stained because that's how it be sometimes.
Well, those are like the free bleed days, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. It's like you have to learn
And
how to do these
yeah,
little tricks, and she does not have that. And then the last review was that this man is always spewing some cringy, dramatic shit, and I think he'd be better off shutting up, being mysterious, and letting his dick do the talking at this point. And I think that's fair.
yeah. Men should not be allowed to speak anyways.
Because there were so many like chuggy lines, like the whole thing. It's just like some of it is so
I think
cringe.
I don't think that's a character flaw though. I think that's just like a Sophie Lark flaw.
Yeah,
And I think
and that's a flaw.
that's that's just like the genre of dark romance, because the people that are reading dark romances are chuggy millennials. Like, that's why you read so many, Mariah, and I don't read that many, you know? It's definitely a very
I
different
read them at this
demographic.
point for the podcast. Like I originally started reading them because I thought it was such an interesting trope, and then because I'd never heard of dark romance, right? And then I read like some of the big ones, and I was like, it's not it. And then I read Monster Smut and Ruby Dixon, and I was like, this is better. So that's what I read.
You
I
gave
don't really read
Haunting
dark romance
Adeline
anymore.
5 stars. Yeah, because if you
I
did read
told
them,
you
they
it
were
was
all
during my
5 stars.
5-star rating era.
I never had one of those eras.
I didn't know how to rate a book.
What
What is this, like a book report? What am I, in elementary school?
Not
No?
that. I like how your quote is Stalin, Hitler, and whenever it was
I
not
thought it was
Hitler.
Staller Hitler.
Stalin, Hitler.
That's funny.
No, it was Stalin,
Stalin,
Lenin, Lenin, which is
which is even
worse.
worse. I knew there was a third person. I was like, there's Stalin, there's Mussolini, and who's the third person? I was like, it's got to be Hitler, right? I didn't realize it wasn't.
It should have
Whoops.
been. I feel like I would have been more okay if it was Hitler and Mussolini. And Stalin
Because that's
doesn't
what we're
deserve
used to
that,
seeing.
but Lenin, my boy Lenin, they did him dirty as wrong. I wonder if she wrote this like around the time that she was Anastasia too, so that's why like she picked Lenin specifically.
That would be really interesting if that was like the back burner, like she's writing this in the background, but
Yeah, I was like a little. Well, let's see. Oh, this was published in 2023. This book just came out.
no.
This 2023 published.
Really?
I mean, it's 2024 now, but that means it came out last year.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Maybe that's why I had seen it on my For You page so much, is because the second one had come out.
Yeah, so that's like. When did the first one?
I didn't know that.
First one? October 15th, 2021. Dang, it took her that long to write the second one. I don't know if you needed 2 years to write that. To be honest. It doesn't seem
It makes
like
you look at it
work.
different.
It is. I mean, I guess she is writing 6 other books in a year. So,
I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say about these books, but I
we
can't
would have
think of
done an
anything.
episode on Anastasia, but Mariah DNF'd it.
I did. I DNF'd it last year. I read, which if you want to watch, it's in the wrap up. We talked about all the books that we DNF'd, and I got pretty far into the book. I read like over 200, maybe 300. I
The
think I was
book is
closer to
like over
300 pages of
800.
it.
It's not that
And the
far.
Kindle one is longer.
It's like
It's
1,000.
crazy. It's a really long book and nothing fucking happened. And I already don't like them. I don't like the Romanovs. And like I know you like it because of like nostalgia's sake, because you like the movie.
Yes, I like the vibes of it. I like Tsarist Russia vibes, not like the killing of the poor people and the major exploitation of the poor people. But I think it's just kind of like, you know how like people like the like Bridgerton, like that's my Bridgerton era. Like
Which I can
Regency
like
era.
understand. Like the royalty, like I think it's interesting because I also like royalty shit, but
But I don't like
it's so
Nicholas
hard to
II got what
separate
he
something
deserved.
like he, as like the Joker said, you'll get what you fucking deserve, Marie. And
I
I
mean,
think that's
the
accurate.
Romanovs got what they deserved, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I'm able to appreciate it more, because I know that like them bitches got what they deserved versus like the British monarchy. They still have not gotten what they, and they're still in power. So I feel like this, at least I know that these people are dead and gone, and like this section of history is no longer able to happen in Russia, especially after the
Is
USSR.
this like on the defense of your love
But
of
I
the
just think it makes
czarist
it more entertaining rather than like, because I know
canceled?
they killed them and
Just
they
kidding.
had a good life, you know.
Okay, I'll give you that. That is a fair defense.
So it makes me feel better at
I'll
least
give you that.
about reading about like Anastasia.
You're consuming that in a more ethical thing because it's from a Marxist lens and not necessarily from a I can't believe they were murdered type of lens.
No,
Like
I'm
they
glad they were
deserve to
murdered.
live.
No, they I'm upset I didn't get to shoot the bullet myself. Um but yeah.
Oh my god.
But I think I gave Anastasia like 4 stars or that, so this is definitely worse than Anastasia. But again, Anastasia also is a slow burn type romance where it's enemies to lovers, because like I know like the dude, his name is Dimitri in the movie. I don't know what it is, but
I
because
think it
it's
was
not.
Dimitri, right?
No, she changed it. because Dimitri
I
is
thought
like
it was
over.
like with a D and a V.
There is a D and there probably is a V and a D, but I know it was something different. It wasn't specifically Dimitri. Sorry, I haven't. It's been over a year since I read the book, but like the vibes, I think were there, and I think it was true enemies to lovers because she was like the son of Nicholas II, the Tsar, and he was like the son of like one of the not. I don't think he was a Bolshevik. They're like something else, sort of, that his dad was like of, was the son of, and so there was a lot more tension, the relation, whether or not they would get together, things like that, which I more. I don't know if there's anything else we were say though. This is more of a yapping. There's not much substance to Marxist
This kind of like, I think if we do any popular books like the Coho type books, it's got to be done in this format because a lot of these books that get really popular on like romance, specifically like dark romance book talk, there's not a lot of substance, not a lot of plot to them, which is like unsurprising. And I don't want to feed into the trope that's like all these people on the internet, they're just reading porn. But these ones specifically, like the mainliner ones, they lack a plot, which is really
like
frustrating.
fine because like whenever I chose to read these, I was looking for nothing that was complex. I had just finished Priori.
Yes,
I just finished
you read
Priori.
Priori.
I moved on to this, and so this is I needed a change of pace from big high fantasy political drama sort of thing. So this is exactly what I needed in the time that I needed, and it gave me that,
Yeah.
which is fine if that's what you're looking for. But I just can't have all of my books like that personally. Okay, but if there's nothing else, thoughts?
Do I have any closing thoughts? I feel like if you like dark romance, but maybe you want to read something that has a little bit more of like a plot, like I really like the Sinners Anonymous books by Simone Sketcher. I think that's how you say.
Yeah, on KU.
Yeah, they're all on KU. I like those, but those are like mafia vibes too. So there's like that.
But
I even think you get more plot from like Den of Vipers, and there really isn't a lot of plot going on there. But at least it's just one book.
yeah, that book's long, isn't it? I thought it was thick.
Yeah. I think it's
I don't.
500 pages.
We'll see what dark romance I decide to read. This won't be the last one. They're entertaining. That's what you're looking for. But if that's all, don't forget, we're gonna have a link below to donate to the Palestinian family. That is in Gaza. Our Twitter's below if you want to follow us on our social medias. That is also below.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark. If anyone has any suggestions for what we should read that might be interesting, feel free to let us know. I think you can comment on Spotify. But anyways, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.